there's so many options that we have for getting a message out now. Why do you think that the GOP seems so hidebound to the old media? We had a little bit of a blip of hope there with previous talking about the debates not being on the networks.
Right.
If they showed the Hillary, movies and things like that. But to me, it seemed like you should have done that anyway. I mean, why don't we have a Republican debate with Republican moderators so the Republican voters can decide which Republican they're going to vote for in the Republican primary? You know what I mean? Why do they seem intent on still going to NBC, CNN, all the people who are going to try and destroy them?
Yeah. Well, as somebody said, change is hard. I mean, it's a great question. It's the question that hangs over us every 4 years with these debates that drive us crazy. I think we're getting to that tipping point. I think, more than we ever have been, at least in my, adult lifetime in, the political and journalism world. Partly it's beltwayitis, a habit. Old habits die hard. And, it would just absolutely be a completely radical thing to blow off, the old ways of doing things and basically surrendering all our political narratives to these people who hate our guts and are working to destroy everything we believe in. But
doesn't that happen anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, they'd run the narrative anyhow, so...
Yeah, so
why not pick a medium where you can create your own narrative?
I agree with you. Maybe it'll happen. I thought that after the last debate that I'd gotten more heated mail and complaints and vows never again to give to the RNC and the NRSC and the NRCC. And I thought, well, I've heard that before. I think it's because people feel like still that they don't have a choice. And in order to change that calculation, there really just has to be more concerted public pressure. We've got so many battles to fight. I think maybe that it just has never been a priority for people. But I think that if they want to learn from history, just remember how hot your blood was boiling after Candy Crowley inserted herself into that, and maybe things have changed.
Well, we talked about whether to leave or stay at Beyond.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking about making a video with the, should I stay or
should I go now? Yeah.
But again, a lot of the politics in Maryland, a lot of the hope still revolves around Dan Bongino. He's been a great leader, great rallying, cry person in the state. And again, today I was listening to that Freedom Works thing he gave, and he said, we have to be willing to take a lot of jabs to wind up for that right cross.
Yes.
And we're not.
Yes.
So the question would be, what's your opinion on that there's a balancing act between fighting, for principle or fighting only the battles that somebody says we can't, that are winnable?
Right.
Where do you come down on that sort of issue?
Well, I love a political figure and a candidate like Dan Bongino because he's basically, giving the finger to all the people who say, write it off, it's not worth the investment, et cetera, et cetera. And the people who spent their lives and raised their kids and invested so much in businesses in Maryland can't afford to just look the other way. Right. I mean, not everybody's able to make the decision I did, which was just to bolt. And actually, I think it's quite instructive what happened to me, because I thought, you know what, I'm going to seek redder pastures. And here I am in Colorado, that's right, trying to stave off Michael Bloomberg. There's no escape. There's no perfect sanctuary. I thought, okay, I'm going to Gulch. Goodbye. I'm done. It is a constant incessant battle. And I think hopefully what's happening is the role modeling that Dan Bongino is doing is helping to inspire, your next generation of conservative leaders. And I think a lot of Tea Party activists over the last several years, where people have been saying, where are they, and writing them up, and recycling all the obituaries, have just been doing the kind of under the radar, unsexy work of grooming new candidates and the new generation.
They realized that showing up at rallies was good, but there was other work needed to be done.
Yeah.
So, the rallies don't really accomplish much other than to get everybody together and excited for
Right.
for the work.
That's right. Right. It was definitely a first step, and I think being outside of the Beltway has definitely helped me appreciate that. Here at the local level, it's the city council races and the school board makeup, and education obviously is a huge issue for me. And seeing what some of these local candidates have gone through, it's bloody hell. And that's what these unions, particularly the teachers unions, have been so good at, is in hyper-focusing at the local level. Because they're right, all politics is local, and they get it.
In fact, we're doing the reason I can leave tomorrow is already made a commitment to do some video work for a Common Core town hall meeting.
There you go.
So there's probably going to be a pretty good turnout for that. People are kind of exercised about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But education kind of like plays into, I think, where we could find common ground with people who traditionally vote Democrat, especially in the cities, the African American community. School choice really helps them.
Oh yeah.
And they're just not getting served on that in Democratic circles. So one of the things everybody, the GOP, after this last election, talking about minority outreach and all this kind of stuff. They talk about it, but you don't ever really see anybody doing anything other than maybe proposing amnesty or something, just trying to win votes from somebody. And in our state, our biggest population centers, a lot of them are majority minority populations. So the Democrat vote is just there because they just traditionally voted for Democrat for so long. What are your thoughts on bringing the conservative message to those people who have been taught that conservatism is like against that,
right?
That it's racist or it works against their better interests.
Right. It's so hard when you have to start off with a big chip on your shoulder and assure people, no, I'm not racist. You can trust me. I'm not going to do anything bad to your kids. And when you're in that defensive posture, it's really hard to win anybody's hearts and minds over. And so it really is a matter of using the resources that you have, particularly among urban parents. We talked about school choice, whose eyes have been opened up to some core conservative values that benefit their kids. Competition in the schools, quality of life issues, restoring discipline, character, going into the black churches and finding common cause. All of those things seem to me just practical common sense, and yet somehow the elites in the Republican Party think that pandering and moving to the left and selling out their core principles and de-emphasizing these quality of life issues on education and crime, that somehow they've deluded themselves into thinking that abandoning that is the way to win more votes. And I know it's incredibly frustrating, particularly when you talk to minority business people and people who understand that rigor, academic excellence, among Latino parents especially. I got my start in Los Angeles, and one of the things that conservative businessman there, Ron Unz, was able to do was forge these incredibly powerful alliances between Latino parents who were disgusted with what the teachers unions and the public schools were doing in abandoning the duty to teach their kids English, the language of success. And they were able to, turn back the bilingual education racket, really native language racket. And then what happened? They won that, and then there wasn't any conversion of that, that political goodwill into something more. Instead, what happened was Wilson was punished for supporting Proposition 187, and the elites blamed him for demonizing illegal immigrants, and they jumped into the whole amnesty bandwagon. They learned all of the wrong lessons. And again, it does come back to this idea that we've got to apologize over and over again white guilt, Republican guilt. I don't know what it is. I have no guilt about these things. And I'm like, and you just have to shed that. And you can do it without, I know a lot of times, we get bogged down into these debates about tone and the delivery of the message. But if you are confident in what you're saying, you can say it with sugar, you can say it with vinegar. It's not changing your core message.
Right.
And I just get frustrated because, I've been doing this for, almost a quarter of a century now. And really, at bottom, people either believe that you are sincere in your beliefs, or if you don't have that authenticity, and impressions are everything, they're not going to listen to a word you say.
I imagine you might have heard at the conference last week, Arthur Brooks and David Horowitz talking about that same. I didn't hear Horowitz. I heard Arthur Brooks was over at the Right Online conference, within the Dream conference, but about leading with what you're about rather than what you're against.
Yeah.
So all these conservative policies that we support are for the benefit of people.
Yeah.
We care about people. We don't want them to be, dependent on the government for their living. We don't want them to be, especially when the programs become insolvent and they go away, the people who are dependent on them are the ones that are going to be hurt. The rich people won't be, they'll be impacted somewhat, but they'll get by. It's the people who are down there who are really hard on their luck that are really going to be hurt by those things.
Yeah.
But that message never seems to come out.
Well, part of it is because who's controlling those narratives and message. And that was very frustrating during the RNC last year because we had some fantastic spokespeople, minority business people talking about their family businesses who've been here for generations and where they came from and lifted themselves up from poverty. None of those people made it onto the primetime news. Now, we could complain about that, or we could keep pushing them in their face, pushing them into the mainstream spaces. And it just takes redoubling your efforts. And I understand that you have these two sort of kind of opposite worldviews about how we deliver the message, because Arthur Brooks always puts a happy face on everything, and he's fantastic. You feel great, and he is, he's the consummate scholar, but also just a great conservative salesperson for if you don't want to be scared out of your pants. On the other hand, sometimes you need David Horowitz to whip you back into shape.
Right.
And this is somebody who has an enormous amount of credibility. He came from the left. He has literally seen the deadly side of progressivism.
Right.
I'm one of those people, and maybe it's because I'm a mom who thinks we can multitask. That when we need to, and this was my message, last week at the AFP thing, is when we need to, put on a smile, and when you need to, put on your warrior costume. The circumstances will change, and you just have to know which costume to wear, and which uniform and which battle.
Yeah. And it all depends on who you're dealing with at the time.
Exactly.
If you're dealing with a politician who's trying to demonize you, you go one way. Somebody who, through no fault of their own, just has mixed up ideas because they've been fed a lot of wrong information from people for a long time.
Right.
You might want to sugarcoat them a little bit.
Right.
So you have to get people where they are.
That's right. It's not rocket science. And